Hi, young clergy women friends. My name is Kelly Shriver. I'm a Presbyterian pastor in Portland, Oregon. And for our day of prayer, I wanted to share with you one of my prayer practices, which is praying through origami, and specifically making paper cranes. Ever since I was a really little kid, I would sit in my room by myself and listen to old radio programs with a special shout out to Adventures in Odyssey, if any of you all grew up in more conservative evangelical circles like I did. And I would sit there for hours and I would listen to these programs and I would fold paper cranes because it gave me something to do with my hands while I was listening to things. As a pastor now, I have grown to appreciate folding origami as a practice that keeps my hands busy and occupies part of my brain, allowing me to focus elsewhere on praying for my congregation, which I find is something I often get very distracted in the process of trying to do. So it's not too difficult of a prayer practice. What you need is paper and yourself, thoughts for your congregation, whatever else. And what I do for this practice is I usually set aside a little bit of time when I know I would like to be in prayer for my people or even for myself, for my friends, whomever I'm praying for that day. And I make sure I have my paper, and sometimes I like to have a pen with me as well. And I begin often by writing down what I'm praying for on my actual piece of origami paper. I do this with cranes because that's something I've done since I was really little, and I'm sort of obsessed with the idea of making 1,000 paper cranes and hanging them around my office. But I've also gone through times where, for instance, I made like hundreds of these tiny paper stars, which are pretty easy, don't require much skill at all. And so what I do no matter what I'm doing is I will often write down on my piece of paper what I'm praying for. So today I am praying for young clergy women international. There we go, correct spelling. And as with any practice of prayer, I sort of decide what my attitude and posture of prayer is for that day. For me, often that's eyes open, and I like to look upward when I pray. But I sort of take a deep breath, and I come into the space that I want to be in for prayer. And I don't speak out loud when I'm praying. It feels weird to me, and I get too distracted thinking that I'm talking to an audience rather than speaking directly to God. And I just begin folding my paper cranes while I'm doing this. And there's something about repetitive motions that I have done and learned thousands of times throughout my life, really and truly since I was about 6 years old, that brings me back to myself and allows me the space to think and pray freely for the places that I am being led to pray without thought toward my own ego or the expectations of others, which I don't think I'm unique in carrying a little bit too close to myself. Anyway, that's not a particularly professional looking crane, and I find that when I'm praying, doing this, my output isn't always as perfect as when I'm focusing on getting every single crease exactly where I need it to be and all of that. But it keeps my hands occupied, it keeps my mind focused. And when I'm doing this prayer practice, I will just keep pulling out pieces of paper and going and going and going for as long as it's necessary. I have thought about the idea in the future of if I have prayed for someone over a crane giving it to them without telling them that I've written on the inside of it, but that isn't something I have yet done. That might be something I expand to in the future, to let them know that this is the tangible result of the time that I spent remembering them and thinking of them and offering the needs of others before God in prayer. So I hope that this might be a fun prayer practice for some of you all, and a way to connect with the presence of God. Have a great day of prayer, everyone.